another time and space. A parallel universe is falling on its face. When out of the chaos, who else could it be? Bucky Animal Adventurers from SPACE. Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare. Mutants and aliens and toads beware. You're looking for adventure, well this is it. With Jenny, Deadeye, Blinky, and Willie to win. I said Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare.
Now an update on Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Menace.
In the battle of the universe, you don't know what's next. You only know amphibians have made it complex. When you check out your scanner and the evil that it poses, there's only one course of action. Focus some toads! Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare. He goes when no ordinary rabbit would dare. If your righteous indignation has suffered a hit, and your photon accelerator's broken a bit, and you're losing your mind, and you're having a fit, get the funky fresh rabbit who can take care of it. Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare. Let's crocus some toads!
Strap yourselves down and heat up those engines, because this is Bucky O'Hare. Now, in all the history of fiction, and particularly science fiction, there are few characters that can claim a smaller but more dedicated fan base than Bucky O'Hare. Now, many of you might have heard of Bucky O'Hare, particularly from the NES game and the arcade game, or the animated series. What many people don't know is that Bucky O'Hare was actually a comic book that was created in 1978 and published in the mid-80s. Let's have a look at this. This particular edition is a hardcover, and it is one of the 2,000 hardcover special editions made specifically for the Bucky O'Hare fans. And this edition is actually signed by the creator Larry Hama and the artist Michael Golden. Now, those of you who are familiar with the Michael Golden name will know that his style of penciling is just crazy. He can make a whole scene come alive with incredible amounts of action. And his style is really unparalleled, even by today's standards. Now, as you can see, the illustrations over here are very high quality, showing lighting effects, shadow effects, and reflections that are actually very difficult to achieve. And the art style of Bucky O'Hare is very particular. This comic is not actually meant for a specific audience. It's actually equally appealing for adults as it is for kids. In fact, I think it appeals a lot more to adults because of certain themes. Now, if you can check this full-page illustration, you can see how crazy the style is. There's just an unsurmountable amount of action going on here at the same time. Explosions, swearing, toad ships, battling. This is really a piece of eye candy. Now, the story behind Bucky O'Hare is simple but effective. He is a captain of a starship named the Righteous Indignation. That's a name that many kids won't find rolling off their tongues. His gunner, Deadeye, was a four-armed duck and is actually a pirate. And he's a foul-mouthed son of a gun, but he's actually very dependable. He's a little android here called Blinky. Would be like the C-3PO or R2-D2 of sorts. The ship's navigator, the Aldebaran cat Jenny, is actually a psychic and has this very strange abilities that are quite particular to a character, such as moving things with her mind and making things randomly explode. Now, what sets Bucky O'Hare apart from any other science fiction series is that it actually combines two worlds. The world of Bucky, known as the Aniverse, odd play on animal and universe, and the world as we know it, from which this character called Willie DeWitt comes from. Now, William DeWitt is a regular kid, a stereotypical nerd, if you will. His parents are two environmentally maniac freaks, and they just completely go nuts whenever it comes to protecting the environment, often neglecting their child. Now, William is a genius, and he has created a machine called a photon accelerator, which, strangely enough, is the same machine used in the engine of the ship Righteous Indignation. And when he activates it, he actually bumps into Bucky O'Hare and crew by means of a strange dimensional door, which is made between his room and the Righteous Indignation. Now, this comic actually has a few themes that would make it rather unsuitable for children. For one thing, people actually die in this comic. Now, the main antagonists of this series are toads that have been brainwashed to create a militaristic society with only one purpose, and that is total toad domination of the universe. And the toads have a huge armada of ships. We have smaller fighter ships, large motherships, and colossal ships known as magma tankers. Now, the way they power their vehicles is with magma, which they extract from planets, thus leaving the planets to cool down and eventually die. When you think about it, that sounds pretty creepy. It's very disturbing when you really think down to it. Now, the toads were not always evil. They lived in a capitalistic society in which the only interest of the toads was to get more than the other toads. Strange play on capitalist society, anyone? Now, toad scientists created a marketing supercomputer known as Complex. Now, Complex actually lobotomized all the scientists and other toads, and in the animated series it kind of just hypnotizes them. Here it actually blasts into their brains. And in the end, Complex turned the entire toad planet into a factory to produce ships of war to dominate the entire universe. Now, the United Animal Starfleet is actually kind of useless, so to say, and they don't take much action until it's too late. Again, perhaps another parody of a real-life government. So in the end, when the situation is uncontrollable, they form a small elite group called SPACE, Sentient Protoplasm Against Colonial Encroachment, or SPACE, and they commission only 3 ships. Now, in the animated series, these 3 ships have names, and the comic book unfortunately did not last very long, so we don't know the other ships. Now, the Righteous Indignation is the first. According to the animated series, the other one would be the Indefatigable, and the last one would be the Screamin' Mimi. So, it's all about fighting an invading force and defeating the colonial efforts of the toads. And the story is told through a series of very good illustrations and very good action. And there's not a dull moment in this comic, which is difficult to find in many comics. Now, right off the bat, let me just tell you, I'm not a fan of DC or Marvel. I think that they're the equivalent of the Hollywood to comic books. And this was published by Continuity. A rather small and not very successful company, but they did put out some very good comics in the past few years. And their style of comics is very different from what you'd find in Marvel and DC. Looking at the complexity of these drawings is just amazing. There's so much going on that you kind of imagine how many hours did it take for them to make all these drawings. It's a shame it wasn't that successful, but what they did do was very good. So overall, Bucky O'Hare is really a one-of-a-kind comic. And if you like fast-paced action and something vastly different from everything out there, this is definitely a very worthy series to look into. Now, unfortunately, the DVD of the animated series was never published in Region 1 format, only in Region 2, which is England and most of Europe. So if you have a DVD player that can read European discs, or if you have a Japanese PlayStation 3, then you can go ahead and import that. Otherwise, it'll be a little bit of a problem. Now, one of the major differences between the comic and the animated series is that Willie DeWitt, while he transports himself from one dimension to the other in the animated series by means of his photon accelerator. In the comics, he's actually stuck in the Aniverse, and many people would argue that it was actually better for him to be here, because on Earth he's just a bullied little nerd who really doesn't have much of a life. And on the Aniverse, he actually has a purpose. So, however traumatizing it might be for a little kid, it's actually much better in the end. So this was Bucky O'Hare, definitely a comic worth looking into. It's really one of a kind, and there's nothing quite like it. And this harks from a better time in life, in which a regular person could enjoy the whimsy of talking animals blasting each other through space without the fear of being labeled as a fur fag. And this edition, although very limited, is not actually that difficult to find. And it's a very good edition. It's got a hardcover, and the pages are very well laid out. So if you're a fan of Bucky O'Hare, or if you want to get into it, this is a nice place as any to start. So, thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the next few episodes. I'll see you all later.